I'm Ellen Heltzel, and it's my pleasure to kick off the announcement of our book award winners, starting with the autobiography category. If we could have the lights up a little bit, I'd like to announce each of our finalists, and when I do, would you please stand up to be acknowledged? Lights, edit. Okay, a little bit. The finalists in autobiography are Rick Bass, For Why I Came West, a Memoir, from Howling Victim. For The House at Sugar Beach, In Search of a Lost African Child in China. Maybe to keep the things going, I'll read through and we can have the applause at the end because we'll have a lot of people to applaud here. Honor Moore for The Bishop's Daughter, a Memoir by W.W. Norton. Andrew X. Pham for The Eaves of Heaven, A Life in Three Wars from Harmony Books. And Ariel Sabar for My Father's Paradise, A Son's Search for His Jewish Past in Kurdish Iraq from Algongquin. And now for a few words on the winner. Taking the memoir to a new dimension is the challenge met by Ariel Sabar in My Father's Paradise. Sabar was no ordinary father. Born into an ancient community in northern Iraq, he was part of a minority within a minority, Jews among Kurds in an Arab country. Its members were so isolated that they were ignorant of the Holocaust and still spoke Aramaic, the language of Jesus, when they were uprooted and sent to Israel. There, the young Yana almost succumbed to the discrimination against Kurdish Jews and the way one's own culture could slap down hands that reached too high. But after receiving a full ride to Yale, he came to America, where he married and found his life's work. As a scholar and professor at UCLA, he became the self-appointed guardian of his native language and literature. As for his son, Ariel, his field is journalism. After his own son was born in 2002, his perspective about his heritage changed, and he began the quest to understand his father's life and culture, and the culture that his father was struggling to preserve. The upshot is this book, a book that operates on several levels, as the story of the relationship between father and son, as testimony to a man with a mission, and as the portrait of nearly forgotten people. Congratulations.
I'm still in a bit of a state of disbelief here. I'm just honored and so humbled by this award. The Jews of Kurdistan lived in one of the oldest and most isolated corners of the diaspora, sort of in this sort of forgotten world, and yet for 3,000 years they kept their stories, their ancient language of Aramaic, and their belief in the Jewish God alive under the least likely of circumstances. And this was a part of the world we look at today. We look at the headlines where Muslims are killing each other because they happen to belong to different sects. But for much of Iraq's history, and I think the story of the Kurdish Jews reflect this, people pretty much got along. The Jews who lived in the Kurdish part of Iraq lived at peace among Muslim and Christian neighbors for hundreds of years. And as you mentioned, growing up in Los Angeles in the 1980s, I wasn't really all that into this part of my heritage. My dad talked funny, he looked funny, he couldn't get his clothes to match. And in a city full of BMWs and Audis, he drove a beat-up Tercel without so much as a working radio. And so it really did take his sort of growing up to want to tell this story. And I want to thank just a few people. I want to thank, I think there was some initial skepticism in the publishing world when I circulated the proposal for this, because they said, well, wait a second, this is a book about a Jewish minority in a Kurdish minority in a majority Arab country, and it's written by a guy who grew up in 1980s LA. I'm not sure we get this. And so I want to thank my agent, Andrew Blauner, and my editor at Algongquin Books, Amy Gash, for taking a chance on a book that a lot of people didn't maybe quite get at first. And I also want to just echo what Ron Charles had said about how important the work of book critics is, because there are a lot of people who might just look at a cover and go, what is this about? I don't get it. And if you read a book, and if you read a book carefully, you can see things that you think are worth sort of bringing to sort of broader public notice. And I'm so grateful for the work that critics do, and we really can't do without them. So thank you all very much.
Thanks. And on behalf of the National Book Critics Circle Committee on Biography, I am pleased to present the 2008 Award for Biography. I'd like to present our finalists first, and I think we have three in the audience. Please stand so that we can applaud your efforts and your wonderful biographies. The finalists are Steve Cole for The Bin Ladens, An Arabian Family in an American Century, published by Penguin Press. Patrick French, The World Is What It Is, The Authorized Biography of V.S. Naipaul, published by Knopf. Paula J. Giddings, Ida, A Sword Among Lions, Ida B. Wells, and the Campaign Against Lynching, published by Amistad. And Ed Gordon Reed, The Hemingses of Monticello, An American Family, published by and Brenda Wineapple for White Heat, The Friendship of Emily Dickinson, And now I'd like to say a word about the NBCC Award winner in biography this year, which goes to Patrick French for The World Is What It Is, The Authorized Biography. When Patrick French was approached years ago to write the Authorized Biography of V.S. Naipaul, he requested total and unhindered access to the writer's archival material and a tremendous amount of Naipaul's time. Naipaul, in what French would later call a unique act of narcissism and humility, acquiesced. He wanted, above all, a record that was honest and unflinching to be left for the world. The result is The World Is What It Is, one of the most fascinating portraits of a living author in recent times. French diligently charts the arc of Naipaul's career from his youth as a descendant of Indian migrants in Trinidad, through his painful time in London after Oxford, to his breakthrough novel, A House for Mr. Biswas, and onward to the novels and journalism that would earn him the 2001 Nobel Prize in Literature. French's biography presents a disquieting figure who responded to the predicament of the post-colonial writer, homeless in the world, as both handicap and opportunity. The rage that fueled Naipaul's perspective turns him into a fiery and stylistically flawless advocate of a painfully honest vision. French wondrously unpacks the sources of that rage, while surveying its fallout for the writer's personal and professional relationships, most tragically in the tremendously sad figure of his wife of 4 decades, Pat. The World Is What It Is an exemplary portrait, honest and poignant, of a terrifically complex writer. We must be grateful to V.S. Naipaul for his faith in requesting such a deeply probing examination, and it is our great gain that Patrick French gave him exactly what he asked for. Accepting the award on behalf of Patrick French is Nicholas Lattimore from Knopf.
Patrick's going to be very sorry he's not here tonight. But he asked me to express his gratitude to the board, to the entire membership of the NBCC, and he wants to thank them especially for their support of his book, for their continued efforts in supporting the reading public, and for their heroic fight to keep their book pages alive. Thank you very much.